Do you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur? You're listening to the RV Life Podcast. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patti Hunt. And we have a show for you today. We are so excited about today's show. I'm going to tell you, if you have ever used a coupon or gone to a sale, then you are an entrepreneur and you have what it takes. You just have to mold it around a little bit so you can be like everybody else.
We are now celebrating our 3-year anniversary, living full-time on the road. We sold everything. We decided to pick up and go full-time, and that has been 3 years with no sign of slowing down. And we certainly had to have this belief that we can do it.
And I have that belief that I can do anything. And it doesn't matter what it is, I can do anything. That sound means it's time for today's fun fact. And today's fun fact brought to you by Open Road Resorts with 4 great locations. I've got 2 of them in Montana, 1 in Idaho, and 1 in Texas. And boy, that Texas location, that's the only one that we have been to. Full disclosure here so far. We're planning on going up to Yellowstone this summer. But that Texas location was beautiful. Our spot, our nose was overlooking this beautiful, beautiful lake that's on the property. And the sun came down right out in front of us over the lake. It was beautiful.
I certainly love my sunsets. But let's get to the fun fact. According to Grandview Research, the RV rental market size was valued at $820 million in 2021, and it has grown since then. So you want to talk about about believing that you can?
$820 million. That's a lot of those little greenbacks out there. Now, I believed that we could, and I talked Patti into selling everything that we own and getting an RV. She had only been in an RV once in her entire life. And we sold, and it was a gas RV. It was I called it a yubba dubba doo machine.
Mm-hmm. It was rough.
Had a hard time getting up over those mountains sometimes. But you know what? I'll be honest. We went out and we bought a 2002 Monaco, an older unit.
That was because you didn't think I was going to make it very long. Now I realize at 3 years anniversary, I realized we bought this because you weren't sure. So you weren't sure I was going to make it. And full disclosure, we needed a spot for the cappuccino machine.
We did need a spot for the cappuccino.
Yes.
Now, I will say that we are celebrating the first day of our 3rd year of RV.
Yes.
Actually, this is the 4th year. We've been 3 full years already, right?
We're going into the 4th year.
Going into the 4th year, right. Yeah, so you could say it that way.
Yep.
So we've 3 years full-time RVing. And so today's show, it may go off the tracks a little bit because I'm breaking out our good china, our good silver, our good...
He's got red Solo cups.
We're going to have some red Solo cups. We're going to get a bottle of champagne. And we're going to celebrate because I believe that you should celebrate every victory that you have. And being on the road for 3 years and not killing each other or killing ourselves or somebody else, that is definitely something to be celebrating.
An accomplishment.
An accomplishment. So we got our red Solo cups out. They are our fine china. And
yes, they are.
Glasses. Go ahead.
Yes, and I got to say, so as we plan, because there's no sign of slowing down. So as we go into year 4, we are looking to go to Red Rock RV Resort, and that is outside of Yellowstone. It is one of the open road resorts, and we love this park. And we were just informed by the owner, one of the things he told us, it's the only park outside the western gate, the western entrance, that now has monthly sites. So if you want to go to places like Yellowstone and Grand Tetons and Big Sky and all those places I've honestly never been to. So we're going to be spending some time in this area. you can go and save money the longer you stay. And that's Red Rock RV Resort, part of Open Road Resorts. Really looking forward to checking that out.
Now, our guest today wrote a book called Real Estate Story, or My Real Estate Story. And that's a kind of a funny name for a book, but when you start your journey in life with a lawnmower business, well, guess what? That lawnmower business, it's got wheels. And now he's in the motorhome business. And I got to tell you, this book, it's one of those, it's a paperback, and I got it as an ebook. And I will tell you that it's one that you look at and you say, oh, I don't want to read that book. But I will tell you that once you read the first paragraph of the first chapter, you are in this book and you are in it for good. It's an easy read. It was so informative. It is so touching. It is so real. And I don't know, the hairs on the back of my neck just stand up.
And anybody that knows you got emotional about it. And truly, we've known Garr now for probably 6 months, and we had time to sit with him while we were in Tampa. Just every time we sit with him, getting to know him more and more. I mean, the story's touching. So I'm looking forward to getting to talking to him. But before we do that, because in my red Solo cup is actually water, and I'm grateful for clean water. So let's talk about Clear 2O.
Elevate your water quality with Clear 2O's RV Universal Advanced Solid Carbon Water Filter. The innovative design uses a solid carbon block made from natural, renewable coconut carbon, ensuring your water is not only clean, but eco-friendly.
And this filter is really powerful, and it reduces iron, manganese, chlorine, and other chemicals while also tackling sediment, sand, silt, and rust. For those of you who have ever been RVing, you can taste and smell things that you know should not be in there, and you know that this filter will get rid of it. So it really helps improve taste, reduce clogs, and it protects your appliances. So if I'm pouring that water in my cappuccino machine, it better be good water. Plus, it's cost effective, and that's great. With replacement filters providing top-notch water purification for just pennies a day.
Now, don't settle for less. Don't settle for the imposters. Don't settle for the cheap ones that are out there. You see, with every RV park you go to, you see the white ones and the blue ones and the pink ones. Well, guess what? These are the lime green ones. And I got to tell you, you need to experience the Clear 2O difference now, because fresh water for your RV is just a click away.
And for those of you listening while driving, all of the details are in the show notes.
You're listening to the RV Life Podcast. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patti Hunt. Our guest today, well, in high school, he spent more of his time in the principal's office than he did in his math class. Today, he wrote a check for $1 million. That's right, $1 million. He has it on his desk so he can see it every single day with the intent to hand that check to a charity by 2025. His entrepreneurial spirit led him to ask his dad for $500 when he was just 11 years old to start his own lawn care business. His dad said no. Now, most kids would have been crushed at that point, but he took that no as a different way of looking at things. The education he got from that experience led him to start his own real estate journey. His experience with his father helped him to understand that he was an entrepreneur and had that entrepreneurial spirit inside of him. He continued to ask himself 3 questions that have changed his life and the life of many others. The first question, could that actually be a good business? The second one, would that actually be a good product? And the third one, would that actually be a good service? He learned the 5 secrets of selling from his stepfather, who embarrassed him at a horse show when he was just a little boy, and he still uses these principles to this day. The first principle of selling is capture the attention of the customer. Tell an engaging story. Create an irresistible offer. Then let people sample your offer. Thank you, Costco, for that one. And then find a mentor. And when you find that mentor, listen to him. Listen to that mentor. He lives his life continuously moving forward with the choice of faith over fear in every moment of every day and almost every decision he makes. Patti and I had the honor of having dinner with Garr this year at the Tampa RV show and driving back to our RV. I talk for a living. That's a tough one, though. Our RV. After we had dinner, we both just looked at each other and said, wow, that man is truly an inspiration. And today we bring that inspiration to you on the RV Life podcast.
And I am so grateful that we met Garr Russell. And I want to get right to things. So welcome, Garr, to the RV Life podcast.
Wow. Thanks, guys. I'm excited to be here. I've never had an introduction like that before, Dan. So I laughed, I cried. I literally felt all the emotions in the last minute. That was beautiful.
Well, that's great. That's great. And we truly feel that as well. You know, just in the time, like I said, that we've known you, we've been able to laugh and cry. The stories that you've told, you are such an inspiration. And we're so grateful, I have to say that again, to have you on the podcast. So let's jump in. Go back to that 11-year-old boy and that disappointment that you felt when your father said no. Let's talk about how you got from there to where you are today.
You know, let me jump in here too and just say that in reading your book, my heart just wrenched out when I read this section of the book, because his father didn't just say no. His father said, "You're lazy. No, I'm not going to give you the money. You got to go out and get that money yourself. You're lazy." And I got to tell you, knowing you and the conversations that you and I have had together, it just really, that was a reteach of a lesson that I think everybody learns as a kid one way or another, when they get that rejection at some point, that everybody learns that lesson. And it really hit me very, very hard.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing. I mean, those literally are the moments in life that determine our destiny, is what we choose to do with information like that when we hear it. And I don't know how much I talked with you guys when we went to dinner, but that literally set me down a path of entrepreneurship. But it was not a good path of entrepreneurship. Decisions that I made and things that I did. And it's amazing in hindsight now that one of my favorite sayings is, life doesn't happen to you, life happens for you, but you really need to take the time to slow down to understand what's happening and then figure out the for, instead of being the victim and everything happening to you. We were just talking to our 15-year-old daughter about this yesterday with that exact story. It's just, God is so good how we can literally use one moment like that for a million things that can inspire your life and many others.
Absolutely. And you really, and this is why we got along so well, because everything you're saying is so, you know, true for us, and to learn it at a young age. And, you know, as you shared your story, it wasn't all, and we're going to get more into that, but it wasn't all up, and everything was wonderful. There was a lot of up and down. So, you know, we're going to dive into all of that. I hope we can keep this to a reasonable amount of time.
Now, Garr, let's talk about a little bit of inspiration here. Anybody who has ever written a book or a letter, or, you know, in our case, we write blogs all the time. Before we commit something, the words to the paper or the words to the computer screen in today's environment, we really have to think about what we're saying. And, one of the things that was in your book, and I'm sure it's a real story, is that you physically wrote a check for $1 million paid to the order of, well, we're going to fill that in later. And you have that right in your eyesight so you can see it. Tell me about the thought process behind doing something like that so you know that you're going to give that to charity down the road.
Yeah, that was when you were getting my introduction. That was the part that got me a little teared up looking over at this check here that's written out. And they say if it's not in writing, it's not real. So just simply writing something out, the power of what that does. I mean, just writing stuff down. They say if you write something down, you're 80% more likely to remember it. And I've always been an entrepreneur, and I was at a real estate seminar. Almost 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And one of the speakers said, I was put on this planet to make a bunch of money, give it away, and then do it all over again. And I thought, you know what? That resonates with me, because I remember when my wife and I first got married, our major arguments were over money, and not the typical arguments you have as your spouse with money. My arguments were that I kept giving all our money away, or I kept letting random people move into our basement. Or, that is the gift that God had given me. I had the gift of giving. One of my goals is to cut a check for $1 million to a nonprofit. And, and I'm excited for that day. And, and they say, if you don't put a date on it, it's almost like it's not real. So that was the date that was impressed on me. I'm looking at it right now. It's April 6, 2025 is the date on the check.
Well, we're going to do another podcast episode on April 6, 2025, because I got to tell you that I'm putting it in my calendar right now. I don't know what day of the week it is. I don't care. But we want to do a podcast episode that day with you. And I know, I don't know. I was going to say, hopefully you'll be ready to do that. But in my heart of hearts, I know. It's not a hopefully. I know. And Patti and I have been lucky enough to have been in the audience or been backstage with a lot of those great inspirational speakers that you were talking about. And I actually heard Bob Proctor say that exact set of words. He said he and I were talking backstage, and Les Brown was on stage, and he was going long like he always does. So I had a lot of time to sit and have one-on-one time with Bob Proctor, and he told that exact story. He said, Dan, I was put on this earth to give money away, to make sure that everybody has what they need. That's why I'm here. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I teach, and why you should be so passionate about what you teach. And that day he signed a book for Patti. Patti was not with me backstage that day. You guys had all gone out to lunch, I think. And he signed a book for Patti. And she was not a public speaker yet. She was not a podcast host yet. She was a ninth grade high school science teacher. And he signed the book and he said, Patti, get on stage now. And we were in, I don't even know where, somewhere in Arizona or something. We were at an event in some distant location, distant land. And we came back to Philadelphia. And the very next day, we walked into an event that we were going to, and the gentleman that was running the event said, you know what? I need somebody to open the event. Patti, would you like to do that for tonight? So she got on stage now. And the power of what you just said, the power of writing it down, the power of putting a date, a time frame on it. It is so, and it doesn't matter what it is. I need to go mow the lawn. I want to buy a new RV. I want to, do whatever. You put that out there into the universe, and believe me, folks, the universe is listening. And you have to want to do something with everything that you are, everything that you have, and everything that you are. If you get behind whatever it is, you will be successful. But if you're questioning, oh, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can do that. Well, guess what? The universe is going to say, well, I don't know if you're ready for me yet. So I just think that what you just said was so powerful, and it brings all these things up.
Yes. And this is where being on a podcast, and Garr and I could see each other, and Dan's sitting here. This is where having video on a podcast would be very powerful. Dan is, I mean, he is animated and his face is animated because this is what we lived. And, you talk about, I love the quote on your book that says, journey filled with faith, failures, and fun times. Because failure is part of it, right? So let's talk about that.
Yeah. That's, I was just speaking at an event the other day, and we shared the statistic about how the SBA says 50% of first-time businesses fail within the first 5 years. And that's like a very common statistic. But what they actually go on to say that not a lot of people know is 80% of people don't go on to take a second try at starting a business. And it's that fear of failure. It's that fear of failure that holds us back. And this is the beauty of how really the world works and how God works is failure is all part of the journey. Failure is one of the ways that we learn. Failure is one of the ways that we grow in our grit and our resolve and what not to do. And also when we fail, now we've got a story in our arsenal that can encourage the next person when they fail, because guess what? We're all going to fail. Like, it's going to happen. We're all going to fail many times throughout life. But when we fail, we really, if we take that and we learn, we're like failing forward, because now we've got a lesson that we bring with us into the next attempt, and we can avoid a pitfall or a curve or whatever it is. But we've got to get over the fear of failure, because guess what? Failure is going to happen. So you can stop fearing it and just know it's going to happen. And then when you do fail, then you say, okay, what can I learn from this? Because now it's not a failure. It was actually a learning experience. And then you take that into what's next.
I absolutely, totally resonate. You're saying words that, I just really hope our listeners are listening to, and that's whether or not they're starting their business or they're getting in an RV. We talk and hear about people that get in an RV and maybe they choose the wrong one, or they have an accident. We've done that. We've taken and dragged our Jeep for so long that we wore down all 4 tires. Well, we could sit and cry about it and say, that's it, I'm not going to RV anymore. And believe me, it was a thought at the time. Or we could, and it's maybe a smaller example, but we could pick our big boy pants up and say, let me see what I can learn from that. And after, you're frustrated, you're annoyed, you're angry, you do something that is, you fail at something that you really planned, you thought about. But it's like you said, my thing is, if you don't fail at something, you're not living, you've not done anything. The only people that aren't failing at something are the people that maybe do everything the same. They go through the same process all the time, every day. That's the only way you're not going to see some bit of failure. I mean, there's no other way. So I really love that. I love to emphasize that. I've mentored a lot of people, and, whether they're young people, in high school or adults, that fear of failure is so big that it stops people from living. And what I love about what you talk about, what you do, is inspiration's the word that constantly, when I got off the phone, we talked for the first time 5 months ago, just had a introductory email and got on the phone. And I think I felt like we hit it off. I just felt so inspired by you. I felt your energy, not to get all woo-woo, but I really feel like there was a connection. And I feel like it was just that, being inspired. No matter what we all do, we still inspire each other. And just speaking to you, I got off the phone with you that first time, and I just went on and on to Dan about how great this person was. How amazing, and the meeting you and sitting with you. So thank you. We're we're all getting very passionate about that. But
I'm just going to take a different road on this one right here. And I didn't feel that way about you at first, but I've got to tell you, after I read this book, I felt that way. I mean, I'm just, my heart is open, and it was just an incredible, uplifting book and uplifting messaging. And, I know I didn't ask you this beforehand, but I know you're going to say, okay. So you have a link in your web world system that actually gets this book to people for free, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You can go
So we
download
can
a copy
put
for
that
free.
link out to people right here on the RV Life podcast, and they can read your book.
Yeah.
Correct? For free.
Yeah, most definitely. Yep.
okay, so I'm going to put that in the show notes.
We'll put that link in the show notes.
And a lot of the book, we just go down that road a little bit. And again, we don't have a time limit on this podcast, luckily. So I'm going to go down that road a little bit. A lot of the book talks about, helping entrepreneurs to be successful, because I think that's where a lot of the fear of failure. I think a lot of times, some people want to work the 9 to 5, no argument, no doubt, not trying to change their mind. But a lot of the people that, even people for us, I thought I was going to be a teacher forever. Well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to support my students the way I wanted to. So I went, off in left field and decided to become an entrepreneur. Can you tell the listeners a little bit more about your book?
Yeah, it's really that word we've been focusing on, which is so cool. It's failure. Like, we had a great conversation initially. We talked about some failures, right? So we took off our mask. We're like, hey, here's Fireside RV Rental, this big nationwide franchise. But hey, here's Garr as a human, and here's my failures. Here's every side of me, and that's one thing that in business too, we feel like we have to have it all together. That's something my wife and I have been talking about the last couple of years. Even like customer service at businesses has like gone downhill. Like, for you to get somebody to tell you, hey, sorry, that was a mistake on our end at a company nowadays is like near impossible. But if people are transparent, hey, we made the wrong decision there, we're sorry about that, we failed on that. Like, you can do that in business. You don't have to have it all together to start a business. You can learn and grow and share failures. And really that's what the book is a lot about. It's about failures and learning from them, because that's going to happen. And two, it's really about helping people identify and solidify in their mind that they are an entrepreneur. So it's kind of like Dan was said at the beginning. You have an idea for a product, or you see how something could be done better, or these different things. Those are like indicators. Those are signals that you're an entrepreneur, that you see a need in the market and you see a solution to that need. That's what entrepreneurs do. We find needs and we fill the needs. It's literally that simple. And if you're not an entrepreneur, well, then you're working for an entrepreneur that has found the need and they're filling the need. You're just the person filling the need that they found.
Right.
And they're telling you when you get to fill the need, how much time off you have on filling the need, if you can go to your kid's soccer game at night, how much you're going to get paid to fill that need. An entrepreneur, we're telling the world how much we're going to make, when we're going to work, what we're going to do, what we're not going to. And on the other side of that too, honestly, to level the field there, I believe, and I talk about this in my book, that you're born an entrepreneur. One of my favorite scriptures says that the gifts and callings of God are without repentance. And what that scripture means to me is you're born with gifts and bents and different things inside of you. And one of those gifts is you're born as an entrepreneur, or you're not born as an entrepreneur. But a lot of people don't take the time to actually think that out. They spend most of their life being a wantrepreneur, what I call a wantrepreneur. I don't know if that's an actual term. Maybe I should trademark that. A wantrepreneur, they want to be an entrepreneur, but fear is holding them back, or they just don't know the steps to take. But if you're a wantrepreneur, I talk about in my book, well, then you're actually an entrepreneur. You just don't know the next step to take, or fear is holding you from taking your next step.
Or a little bit of both. And just to go back, and we didn't mention, Garr is the owner and CEO of Fireside RV Rental. I know it's an amazing company. Dan and I have not had actual experience with the company. We haven't yet needed to rent an RV. That might be coming, and we'll tell people why in a little bit. But again, for me, talking to you, I know that I have no problem going to Fireside RV Rental, sending my best friend, our son, whoever, because of the kind of person you are. And that's what's most important to Dan and I. So I just wanted to put that in there. I think that, the business that we own, all of these things come first. And I'm so glad there's a book out there that people can read, because you're touching on all the points of what holds people back. So I just want to put that out there for our listeners.
Yeah, in the last couple weeks, and Patty's in my life is very, very different from the normal person's life. We travel all over the country. We meet people from all over the world. And most of those people are owners and presidents of companies. And one of the things that we have truly identified is success comes from the mindset of the owner. And a company that we really, 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 and I'm going to take a little sidetrack and not put Garr on the spot here, but
we're going to put him on the spot. Get real.
National Indoor RV Centers, NIRVC, owned by Brett Davis. I mean, here's a man that truly cares about his customers, and every decision he makes is with his customers' best interest in heart. And that is the way to, I said to him, we were together at a dinner a couple weeks ago, and I said to him, I want to grow up and be just like you, because his thoughts and the way that he runs his business and the people that are with him in his business are just, I don't even have to run his spot today because I'm doing it off of that.
Right. Absolutely.
But I'll tell you what, it really is, Garr, when we went to dinner, you brought one of your franchisees along with you, right?
That was Stacy, my CMO. She
CMO.
was a franchisee. She sold her franchise and then
came to work for you.
Yes.
Okay.
We talked a lot about the vision that night. We talked a lot about how, when she's out renting these and putting them out in the marketplace to the end user, how she felt confident in what she was doing because of your confidence and your attitude about what you were doing. And I just think all of that is so important.
It's infectious, is what I'm hearing you say. Like, that's the word I'm using. It just spills out. That's why I said after our conversations, I would send my very best friend to Fireside RV Rental, even though I don't. And on the RV Life podcast, our sponsors of the show, the people we have on, we make sure their products or services we know about. We know the integrity of the company. We make sure of that because we don't want just bring somebody on and have no idea about the company, but we're able to do that because of this feel. We know who you are in your heart, and the conversations that we've had. It was funny because since Tampa, we hadn't talked in a while, and I just wanted to reach out and be like, hey, what's going on? Because you connect in that way, and it's just, it's a special kind of connection. I guess we're getting all mushy here, but yeah, it's a special kind of connection.
It's energizing to talk with real, raw, entrepreneurial, like-minded. And we were full-time RVers for 5 years, so we're living the life, not just in the RV business. And I agree. It's very rare that you find good, genuine connections nowadays. So when you find them, you
cherish
want
them,
to keep them and nurture them. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I'm going to go to the first chapter of your book, and you talked a little bit there, and you didn't really get deep into it here like I would have liked you to, but you talked a little bit about opportunities. Now, we've been talking about failures and how you can learn from your failures. But I think one of the things that you and I might share the same thought process is about opportunity and how they're around us. They're everywhere. All you have to do is look at them and be trained to see them. And I think that's one of the big complaints or arguments I have right now in the world is people stopped looking. They stopped looking at the opportunities that are all around them. And if you want to be more successful or pick up on that opportunity and do something about it. I really, really liked what you said in that first chapter about the opportunities that are all around us all the time. I really enjoyed that section of the book.
Do you want to share that with the people who haven't read
it
the
kind
book
of comes back to the word failure that we've been bringing up. And really what it is opportunities usually come wrapped up as problems inside of a problem. My two most successful businesses, one that I've sold and then the one I have now, started as a problem. They started as a pain point. I had a credit counseling company that I owned for over a decade that I sold. It's still up in operation today. That opportunity, that business started out of a problem. The problem was I had to clean up my credit and my finances after all the decisions I made before I started walking with the Lord in 2003, and fix up my credit, learn how to deal with creditors and build positive credit and pay my debts and budget, this and that. That turned into a company that won national awards. I authored 2 books on credit during that. Became a credit expert witness, a whole bunch of stuff. And that really what that was a business that was birthed out of a problem. And it's so cool how so many opportunities pass us by because we're more in the emotions of the pain that we feel inside of that problem instead of getting to the other side of the emotions and saying, okay, now it's time to figure out a solution to this problem. And then you realize, oh, wait, other people might have this problem. And that's why I'm so big, like we talk about in the book, I'm so big into having a coach or a mentor, a guide. And honestly, too, that's really, if you notice, like a lot of shifts happening in the economy in the U.S. and businesses, coaching and courses and challenges, all those things are just on the rise. They're growing because people are understanding, man, there's always somebody that's going to be 5 years behind you that would do anything to get where you are today. And there's always somebody that's 5 years ahead of you that you would do anything to get where they are. And a lot of times we're stuck we forget where we were 5 years ago. So we're in the pain of what we have or don't have. Problems are really one of my favorite mentors, and this has really been like the last year and a half, is Tony Robbins. Like I just learned about this guy like a year and a half ago.
Oh, wow.
I've known him forever, right? And Jim Rohn and these guys, I literally just got turned on to these guys lately. And Tony Robbins says something super powerful. He says, the number one motivator of people is pain. And they want to avoid pain. And what motivates them to actually turn away from the pain is when the pain becomes too great to stay in the current situation. So literally, you don't decide to go on a diet until the pain of being overweight and sore and feeling bad about yourself has passed the pain of the thought of going to the gym and sweating. Right. And that's actually next month will be, my wife and I made a big life change. We stopped drinking alcohol, and alcoholism runs really heavy in my family. So nothing against alcohol. I just know for me in my generational stuff, like I needed to cut that out. And literally I used that principle from Tony Robbins, and I sat down and I wrote all the pain points of continuing to drink. And literally something I had gone back and forth on for years, literally within 2 minutes, I was able to make a decision right then. And it'll be next month will be a year that we haven't had a drink. And it's so crazy. It was all, the foundation of that was pain, was a problem.
Absolutely. And I think so on point, so true. Tony Robbins, great, just a great inspiration and a great leader. We have had a lot of connection to him. But I'm going to really shift gears here because...
Wait, before you do that, I want to change the name of the RV Life podcast. to Life Advice with Dan, Patti, and Garr.
That is a spin-off podcast, an absolute spin-off podcast. And on that note, as you say that, our sister podcast, the RV Life Entrepreneur Podcast, you were on there talking all about entrepreneurship on that podcast. And we'll have to put that, find that and put that in the show notes, because I'm sure there was a lot of, honestly listened to parts of it, but I don't remember. I'm going to be honest, in doing my research. So I'm going to listen to that. I'm going to put it in the show notes. So people who are looking to go down that entrepreneurial road, there are other steps once you work on how you think and what you think. And then you could go down the road.
Wait. While you're right there, and Garr, you just kind of teed me up for this one. One of the biggest pieces of advice that we as a community group here can give to people out there is get a mentor. And don't just get a mentor, but get a mentor and then listen to what that person is telling you, because most cases they're just leading you in the right direction. Right. And I can't tell you how happy we are. We were just recently at an event. I was at the same event a year ago, and I met a gentleman named Mark Katz. And I will tell you that he is a business coach and a mentor that we have hired.
Right. You're giving him that name. His title is business strategist, but
business
the same thing. But it works the same. Yeah. I'm just letting people know when you're looking for one. Absolutely works the same.
And just the way that I'm looking at things. I mean, you and I are going into a really big negotiation with a major corporation this week. And you just look at things from a different light when you have somebody else looking over your shoulder. I look at Mark and I call him the angel on my shoulder. He's sitting up there all the time, just saying,
Yeah, do that. Don't do that. Yes. Yeah. So a lot of great advice. And again, to that point, we're mentioning Mark. His name's Mark Katz. I'll certainly put his information in the show notes. But to that point, you and I spoke. I understood what you were doing, what your business was doing. I also work with, as most people know, listening to the podcast, Open Roads, that now has a toll pass. And this toll pass works in all 48 states. And Dan and I had just been introduced to it, and we're talking. And I said, Garr, this may be a great idea. So I know you've had some conversation, or your Stacy has had some conversation with them. You want to talk about the toll pass? I mean, I think this is what also being an entrepreneur is about, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we're actually just starting to figure it out, because with RV rentals, right, we've got RVs coming and going, and then tolls are coming later, and we're trying to figure out which renter it was and this and that. So to have the RV toll pass now that we're setting up with all of our locations, it's just automation, right? It's just one thing that's checked off the list that we don't have to figure out. And two, we've had tolls that, you don't pay it on time, you forget this or that. Now all of a sudden you got the fines that come along with that. I think you were telling me that at dinner, a fine.
Yes.
Like you don't even fight it, because it's like, is it really worth the time of fighting it? But,
well, you get to a point where you can't fight it. So since our dinner, I have another $48 in fines, because once they give you 25 days to get it paid. Well, living in an RV, by the time I get the notice and then I get on and I try and take care of it, I was at 27 days, and there's no conversation.
Oh.
That's it. $48 more. So I'm up to $250 this year in fines.
Oh, man.
And the toll transponder, we're talking about Open Roads, innovative tolling transponder. I just want people to know that's what we're talking about. Not only does it cover 48 states, which when I told you, you were like, that's awesome. But when you have a fine, when you have a problem, if you should, they handle it. They have concierge service and handle it. So I'm imagining for somebody like you, Garr, you've got an RV that was rented somewhere for however long. I mean, you've got a lot of RVs. Now you could go on and they could kind of help you handle it. No more fines, no more issues. So again, this is part of, I saw a need that you had that wasn't even my company, my business, but I was able to help you fill that need with somebody else that had come up with something. So, there's being an entrepreneur in a whole different way.
Oh
I
yeah,
have
and to
to,
have that for our, and then we can bring that to all of our franchisees. Yeah, it really is, and that's part of the value too for our franchisees to have the mentor. And
right.
one more point on the mentors, real quick, is a couple of things that I've learned is, uh, if there's mentors out there and it's like $100 a year to be part of their program, you're not going to pay attention. Go find a mentor that it literally hurts you to cut the check, because guess
Yep.
what? When you cut that check, you're going to do the work. One of my mentors, Myron Golden, says those who pay attention. So
I
I had a
love
mentor
that.
last year. I cut a check for 25 grand for just to mentor me in marketing for 1 year. It was 25 grand, and that was his entry level program that he has. He literally
Wow.
has a mastermind group that it's $1 million per year.
Right.
So
And the teacher in me wants to say, for those people listening to the podcast that are just starting their entrepreneurial journey, that just heard $25,000, that are going, I don't have that money, and are in a panic. It's a building. You didn't do that on day one of your business. So it's a building. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there so
Okay,
people don't panic.
We kind of got
But
a little off the rails.
we
Here.
got
We were
way
in the
off
middle
the
of the
rail.
commercial.
We got way off the rail.
We're going to
This
go
is what
back
we do.
to Open Roads.
Okay.
And
Let's do it.
I got to tell you, Open Roads, I love this company. I mean, I just love these people. Gina and her team out there, I mean, they are
Gina. Yeah.
incredible. Gina, yeah.
You broke up. I wouldn't do
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So not only do they have this toll transponder that works in all 48 states and it's only $24 a year, but they have the Open Roads card. And that card is free with their sign up. And it has saved us literally hundreds of dollars this year alone.
Yes.
It has allowed us to buy our diesel fuel at truck stops. And then we can utilize the power of group purchase to save just a ton of money. We love this company.
Yeah. And to help people understand how it works, the card, to sign up for the card, like Dan said, is free. And then while we're driving down the road, I have an app on my phone, and I say, Dan says, okay, I'm at half a tank. It's time to fill up. And I look on the app for where the gas station has the best price. And sometimes I'll say, can we push to get to the next state? Because sometimes the next state is less expensive. 100-gallon tank we have, even saving 5-10 cents a gallon, on a half a tank saves us money. So we really, as Dan said, love this card. And I will put the details in the show notes for sure.
Now, if you like saving money and making your travel easier, you can't afford to not know these guys, because the Open Roads fuel card, Open Roads innovative tolling transponder, the links are in the show notes. And guys, I have to tell you, it has changed the way we think about things. It's changed the way we do business every single day. And just having that peace of mind and the feeling of pulling into a gas station and looking at it pump up and it says $287, and then knowing that we're getting 10 cents a gallon less than what the next guy is going to pay and what it says on that pump. It's just an incredible feeling.
Yes. Whenever you could save money, especially something like gas, it's great. So now let's talk a little bit. We're switching gears a little bit here. Again, Dan said we went off the rails. We always do, because we just go wherever the conversation takes us. Let's talk about Fireside RV rental. Let's give people just an overview. And as I said, and we're going to talk a little more in a little bit, we may need a rental. We are currently getting ready to sell our RV. We're waiting for our next RV. Is that so? So tell us who the people are that are renting RVs in today's environment, spending $850 million in 2021 to do it.
Yeah. It's interesting, and that's part of why I call it real estate. Because an RV is really, it's a home on wheels. So you might think that most of our renters, doing their summer family vacation, and stuff like that. But man, we get renters that are during COVID, mobile quarantine units and mobile testing stations. And what we've also seen too is, you get grandma and grandpa that they sold their RV because the kids weren't necessarily into it anymore. And now the kids have an RV, but the grandma and grandpa maybe just want to join in once in a while. Well, now they rent an RV. Or kind of like in your situation, you guys probably already know, being avid RVers, you probably already know, like, this is what we want. Like, here's the make, the model. That you probably got a lot of the details figured out. But a lot of people, when they're buying RVs, they literally they have a general idea that they want to get outdoors with their kids, and then they go to an RV dealership, and then they're pretty much kind of swayed by that salesman to, probably more on the monthly payment or this or that, and they end up getting something that 3 months later they want to trade in for what they really need. And that's, one of the cool things too about renting an RV is you can really go and try it before you buy it. Especially, these big, beautiful Class A's or nice big Class C's. I mean, heck, you can get a Class A nowadays where your financing goes out 22 years. Like, you better hope that you get the right one, because it's not like it doesn't appreciate like a home does. So that's another one of our renters is they're looking to do that, is just kind of see what works best for them, and the little nuances that you don't think about, right? Like, oh, we live out west and we want an RV, and then you realize, man, to get into the federal parks, you have to be under 25 foot, and we just bought a 32-foot fifth wheel. We can't go to any of the federal parks. What do we do? Stuff like that.
Yep.
Well, you say that was one of my pitches to Patti when we first started RVing. I had called her into my office. I know my listeners have heard this a million times, but it's a story worth telling because I had just left. I was directing a show at the time, and I just left this big meeting that Caesars Entertainment had, and they said, we're not opening our theaters for a year from now, for at least a year. So I went back home to this great big 5,000 square foot house that we had. And I said, we got to do something different. So I called Patti into my office and I said, Patti, I've always wanted to buy an RV. So I think now's the time to do it. I think we should buy an RV, sell everything that we own, and go RVing. I said, we'll start a YouTube channel. I didn't say we'll start a podcast, but we started a podcast too. And, we'll see the United States like you just have never seen it. I mean, we were flyover people before that. We fly from Philly to Las Vegas, and we were just flyover people. Well, I said we'd visit all the national parks. Well, here we are on our anniversary, our third year. We've completed 3 years of RVing. And Garr, do you know how many national parks we've been to? A big fat 0. And the reason that we've been to 0 national parks is not because we don't like the national parks, or not because we're a 40-foot RV when we're not allowed in, but we could always park on the outside of the national park and just drive in.
In a campground, yeah.
In a campground. We're going to do that this summer, as a matter of fact. Visit Yellowstone, go up to Open Road and be right outside the park. As a matter of fact, that brings your company back in, because my son, who lives in Oregon, and I understand you don't have a location there, but we're going to work that out.
Yep. It's just details we have to work out. You'll open a location in Oregon between now and the summer. Yeah, there you have it.
I see an opportunity.
I see an opportunity.
Can I do a shameless plug there? If there's anybody in Oregon and you own an RV storage facility, or you're an RV repair tech, or you're in the Airbnb space and you're looking for your next opportunity, this would be a very easy pivot for you.
You just found your next opportunity.
Yeah, there you go. So we will put that out there. So anybody, storage, repair, and there was one other thing.
Airbnb.
People that are in short-term rentals that, get the business.
Right. Okay. There it is. So
because it's other people's assets. So your overhead is little to none because you're just managing other people's assets. You don't have to go buy a bunch of inventory.
Okay. So, and Garr's got the plan for you. You don't have to worry. He's done the failing, so he could help you through the process. I'll put that information in show notes so you can reach out to Garr. And I believe, correct me please if I'm wrong, the website is firesidervrental.com.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you can go there and get to our franchise website. Yep, in the upper right-hand corner, you click in there, and
Okay.
that'll get you to us.
I got it right.
Okay, I'm going to get back to my story because I was in the middle of telling a story
I'm
here.
sorry. No, I thought you were done. Sorry. Go
Well,
ahead.
we're going this summer. Our plan, our current thought is what we call them, is to go to Yellowstone. And my son, who lives in Oregon, they live in Bend, Oregon. We have 2 grandkids and a beautiful daughter-in-law.
Okay. Yep.
They're looking at renting an RV and joining us in Yellowstone. And just this morning, I was talking to my son where, you said you don't know what you don't know and you don't know the little nuances. My son, his idea is he wants a tow behind that goes off-road, one of those real rugged 4-wheel off-road tow behinds that he can tow behind his Jeep. And that's what he wants because they live in Oregon and they go camping every other weekend. They're just tired of packing up the whole thing and unpacking it when they get back. But for this trip, he's looking to rent a Class A. I said, you rent a Class A, you'll never get a tow behind because once you live in a Class A the way Patti and I live, you're just not going to want to get a tow behind. And the other thing I do want to say is, you open this up, you said you guys probably know exactly what you want. And we're going to do a commercial for these guys a little bit later. But yes, we do know exactly what we want.
Right.
We have been in millions of RVs. Well, maybe not millions, but hundreds of thousands of RVs. We've been
hundreds
in
of thousands. Okay, no exaggeration there. Hundreds of thousands of RVs, maybe hundreds of RVs. But to your story, let's tell your story. We've not gotten to national parks. A lot of times it's because we just see that hidden gem along the way. We've told that story and just, plans change, stuff happens. So I don't feel bad about it. I'm looking forward to them moving forward. So yeah, excited about what's coming in our 4th year of RVing. Yellowstone First National Park, I learned.
And one of the things that's in my idea for our 4th year of RVing is I want to start going out and visiting some National League baseball.
Okay.
So we're gonna do that as we get into our 4th year. But we talk about that. Here's a company right now that has been around for many years. And they, in my opinion, are the best RV dealership. If you're going to buy an RV, these are the guys that you want to buy an RV.
Yeah, Class A, C, B, right? ABC.
D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K.
Okay, let's play the spot.
National Indoor RV Centers with over 1,000 motorhomes available across multiple locations. National Indoor RV Centers continues to provide an outstanding hassle-free motorhome ownership experience. National Indoor is the #1 Newmar dealer in the nation and also features brands like Integra, Winnebago, and much more. Visit NIRVC.com and become a part of the National Indoor RV Centers family.
Today having Garr as our guest is really apropos for that spot because I personally believe that the reason NIRVC is the #1 Integra, is the #1 Newmar dealer in the entire country, the reason that I believe that is because of their ownership. Brett Davis is an incredible human being, and he has assembled incredible people around him to build a business that I want to do business with.
Absolutely.
If I want to do business with them, you want to do business with them.
Right.
And so along, with that, and I say that about Garr because finding a person like Garr that you connect with and that I can be on my podcast to thousands and thousands of listeners. And I know that you will all share this podcast with all of your friends. But having somebody like Garr, he's the kind of person that you want to.
Absolutely. And that is what it is about for us. So, we made the decision that RVC, no matter what, that's the dealership we're going to use, because of the integrity, like we talked about with you, Garr. We talked a lot about, inspiration and, integrity, everything we talked about today. That's why as we start our RV journey, we're talking, that we know what dealership we're going to be going to.
Yeah, I can't imagine buying an RV and not going through NIR. Now, that sound means it's time for this week's question of the week, and it is brought to you by Open Roads Innovative Tolling. That's that tolling transponder we told you about earlier. We love this thing. It has changed the way we think about driving down the road.
So we get questions through social media. This is the question of the week. We get them through social media. We get them through meeting people. People come up and ask us, random questions, and we hope and we try to answer those questions as best we can. And when I go through the questions for the podcast, I try and find a question that we could then put our guest on the spot to answer. And sometimes they can, and sometimes they can't answer it. We're hoping this one you can answer, Garr. We don't know.
I'm going to be honest with our listeners here. Before we started this show, I asked Garr this question. I said, "Can you?" And he said, "I hate to tell you, but I don't think I know the answer to that question."
Right. So now we're putting him on the spot. He either got the answer from his people or not, and then we'll answer it on social media down the road because Garr will get the answer. So this question is from Steve K. of Seattle, Washington. And I literally look for my questions about RV rental because that's the topic. And he said, if he rents an RV, can he take it to Canada or Mexico? So Garr, either you got the answer or we're going to have to put it on social media later.
Yeah, I did get the answer. The RV rentals can go into Canada, but they cannot go into Mexico.
Oh, wow. Didn't expect that.
So they can go in, but you have to make sure you have all your paperwork in order, correct?
Yeah, and really what we're talking about there is, I'm guessing what he's talking about is like, insurance and all that kind of stuff, So,
Right.
But yeah. Canada, yes. Mexico, no.
Wow, interesting. Didn't see that coming. So great question. Thank you, Stephen, for that question. And there's the answer. And if there's any update, we will post it on social media. And this is where the questions are coming from. So our listeners could go to RV Life Podcast on Instagram or Facebook. Leave us a comment. If you have questions for Garr, leave questions there. I'll make sure Garr gets those questions.
Okay. Now, again, we have had some people on our show earlier. The Hanks, what's the name of their?
See, now you're putting me on the spot.
Putting you on the spot, yeah.
Happily Ever Hanks.
Happily Ever
I got
Hanks. They just came back from Canada, and talking to him, he's like, you got to make sure that when you have an RV or whatever, they put you off to the side and then they ask you all kinds of questions. And he's like, they have no sense of humor whatsoever, these Border Patrol agents.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is make sure that you do your research before you go to Canada or Mexico, but you're not going to Mexico in a rental unit.
Yeah, right. So maybe we'll have somebody on that'll talk about how to go through, Fantasy Tours does a lot of that. So maybe going with them. Anyway, moving on to our big what's new with us.
As most of our RV podcast listeners know, Patti and I, we started our RV life in a 2002 Monaco Diplomat. And within the first 6 months, we started looking for our next unit. Now, we didn't know Garr at the time, and we should have gone out and rented a unit, but we didn't. So in the last 3 years, Patti and I have worked 6 RV shows, and we have visited over a dozen dealers. We have sat in, crawled through, and discussed hundreds of RVs. And yes, after 3 years, we have finally decided that Newmar is the brand for us.
Now, Dan shared the fact that going RVing was his life dream. He just didn't mention that to me. So as he said, when we first started, that was my first real experience in an RV. And now that I think about it, I think, what was I thinking? We should have rented like seriously, some RVs, because sometimes you even talk about a fifth wheel. I've never even driven in one. So, okay, there's that. So as Dan dragged me through all these RVs, and I'm now grateful. I used to whine and complain about sitting in an RV for 20 minutes, and we would just sit there. But now I'm grateful now that we are making a decision for our RV, and we decided that Newmar just was right for us. It's just different than any coach we go in. And, there are a couple of reasons that, Newmar stands out for us. And the quality of the workmanship, of course, is one of the biggest things for us. The choice of multiple floor plans in each model and the options are available to customize. And I really have this odd sense of what I want in my RV. And most
Very odd.
important, yeah. Well, I think more and more people are coming to my way of thinking, but we'll talk about that at another time. I think the most important thing about Newmar is the people that make the Newmar Corporation. Truly, again, as sort of the theme of this show, really authentically connecting with people, and people within the Newmar Corporation have that.
Yeah. Now, let me just expand. I know this is your part of the script, but I'm going to expand on your part of the script a little bit here and talk about one of those hair-raising moments that Garr, you and I were talking about earlier. But you know those moments when the hair on the back of your neck just kind of raises up and you just get that tickly feeling all through your body? When I saw this video, and I'm going to put a link to this video again in the show notes. I know I did it a couple weeks ago, but I'm going to put a link to this video again in the show notes. When you go into a dealership, so you go into one of Brett's NIRVC dealerships, and you decide you're going to buy a new Newmar Dutch Star. You know what they do? They take your picture. Not just your picture. They take your picture and the picture of your whole family. Dogs and cats and pets too, everybody. Anybody that's going to touch that RV in your family, they get their picture taken. Now, that picture then gets put on a poster board that is actually mounted on the chassis as it's going down the assembly line. And every single person that works on that coach for you from the Newmar Corporation, they sign off and send you a little note. And to me, that was the most incredible thing that I have ever heard. They have a little video showing you what they do and how they do it. But Newmar has taken the RV manufacturer process to the next level. They're not just building another RV. Those people are connecting with you, and they are building RV for. Now we're heading up to the Newmar plant, and we're going to see this, and I'll take pictures of it in person when I'm up there. But I'll tell you what, when I heard that story, it just the goosebumpies on my arms and the hairs on the back of my neck. Garr, if you had hair, you'd probably had some of those coming up too. I'm just teasing him.
I guess the bottom line is, we're talking to people about our decision. We decided Newmar was the brand for us. Everybody's got different brands. That's why you could go to Garr. Again, I'm going to give a plug, and I was just telling this to somebody. They were not sure what kind of RV. Well, before you make this major commitment, go rent one or two. If you're deciding between, do I want a fifth wheel or Class A, or you're looking for a travel trailer, be in it. And so, again, no script here. I'm just, I think that, we made our choice for us. It's not necessarily,
right.
It's different for different people, I guess is what I'm getting at.
I will tell you, there are so many different brands and so many different models, each brand. So many decisions to make. At the end of the day, though, Patti and I sat down and talked about it, and we decided that we're going to do business with people and not necessarily just the company.
Yes.
And the people of the Newmar Corporation is why we chose Newmar. It is just an incredible story, an incredible company, great people, always get back to you. It's why we chose Newmar. and why we will have a relationship with Newmar moving forward, because it's really about the people. And that's kind of been the subtopic of what we're talking about through this whole thing.
Absolutely.
Is the integrity of the people that you choose to do business with. It's what it's all about.
Right. And again, we're so grateful to have you on, Garr, and not only grateful to have you on the podcast, but so grateful for that very first conversation. The connection was just amazing. And we're so looking forward to a continued friendship, relationship, business, however that looks, collaborations, whatever that looks like. We're just so grateful to know you. So thank you for being on the podcast. I can't thank you enough. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, it was great chatting with you guys. And that's one of the beautiful things just about the RV community, just the connection. And so to be an RVer, full-timer, entrepreneur, all those things together, yeah, there's so many connection points. You never know where things will lead. That's for sure. We're hitting some different RV shows this year that we're excited about. And so I'm sure we'll run into you guys at some of those and different events.
We absolutely better run into each other. We'll make it a point. Absolutely. And like you said, it's just part of the RV community. You think you're so spread out, but then there we are, we'll probably see you in Hershey in September. Well, I'm hoping now that I've
we are
put
going
that
to
out
Hershey in September. Yeah.
Okay, great. So it's amazing how big this country is and how you bump into people over and over again.
Yeah, it really is. Yep. So we've got some fun events planned this year, and it'd be fun to get in the RV. We got back into a house in May, and my 7-year-old, who basically spent most of her life in an RV, is like ready to hit the road again. She wonders why we're still sitting at this Airbnb. She doesn't realize it's people live in houses too.
Oh, different experience. Wow.
Yep.
Okay, you're listening to the RV Life Podcast. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patti Hunt. We've been talking to Garr Russell. He's the owner of
Fireside RV Rental.
And he's the author of My Wheel Estates Story. I'm Dan Hunt, reminding you to have a great rest of today.
And an even better day tomorrow.